Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you so much for joining me today as we talk about ConnectWise workflow rules. I'm just kidding. Always like to start out with a quick joke. Happy to have you guys here today. As you guys can see, we're talking about BCDR in this scenario. Some of the topics that align with something that's becoming a lot more popular these days. And as you can see there on the screen, it is that co-managed NOC for things on the BCDR side or business continuity disaster recovery. So really quick, some housekeeping items. You guys may know me, but if not, my name is Topher Barrow. It is short for Christopher. Can't take any credit for that though. I manage one of our technical sales team here at ConnectWise, and hopefully I'll see you guys around in the future. Would love to chat, love networking, helping out MSPs and all things service delivery. I've been at ConnectWise, ironically, for 13 years. Met my wife here and have definitely been obsessed with partner success as long as I've been here, right? It's something that Arnie taught us whenever we walked in on day one, and just kind of stuck with us. So let's do a quick dive into what we will be talking about today, right? One of the things that I've done for quite some time now, probably a decade, is on the coaching side, right? Whether it be implementation of net new customers, business consulting. I was on education here at ConnectWise for a long time, and that meant going around to different trade shows, road shows, conferences, IT Nation, and really evangelizing some of the best practice concepts that come with being what I would like to call a top quartile MSP. If you're familiar with service leadership and Evolve, these are daily conversations that you have is how do I become a top 25% MSP with regard to everyone else. Those are the most successful, those are the most mature, and those are the ones that are growing and scaling at about 4x or so faster than other MSPs in the arena, right? So some of the things that we always talk about, right? Some of the things that move the needle or get you to that next phase of your organization, that next phase in your growth, you got to get the margins, right? Whenever it comes down to it, and this is something that I had to learn through the coaching side of things is I think everybody, whenever they see that margin, and I'm like, yeah, I want to get your margins as high as possible. I want to make sure you're hitting as much to the top line as you are humanly possible, as well as bringing in as much as you can to the bottom line. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think whenever everybody thinks about that, they think of what Gordon Gekko and greed is good from Wall Street. And it's really not a bad thing, right? It's something that you guys should be striving for, because one of the biggest things that you're able to do with those margins is create more jobs, support more families, do a lot better things for the community and your customers, right? Other great things, right? These are just kind of lifestyle things. You want to have a great team. You want to have happy clients. I would merge those, right? You want great clients. You want a great team. You also want happy and great customers as well, right? So going to lump those two together. Last but not least, amazing services, right? That's where it becomes a little bit more difficult. I'm sure everybody thinks that they have the most amazing services, and I'm sure you do. But one of the things that you'll find is that's ever evolving, right? Having amazing services and being able to compete and win is something that you have to work day in and day out to continuously perfect. And you know what? Tomorrow, that perfect 99% there, right? So you have to continue chipping away at that. Now, down there, you see partnering with ConnectWise. I do work on the revenue side, but I'm not, a salesperson at heart. But whenever it comes down to it, ConnectWise does have a lot of great resources that we can share with you, and we'll go through some of those today to help make a positive impact inside of your organization. Now, got 20 minutes, so definitely want to get as much through as I possibly can. So one of the things that we always think about, think about a maturity curve of an organization. We all started out, whenever I started out at ConnectWise, everything was break fix, right? I remember it like it was yesterday. A guy told me his work roles and work types. He had a bench tech, and this bench tech, they put the computer up there. They charge for whatever amount of time that computer is on the bench being worked by the technician, right? We have progressed past that, right? We've gotten to the point where we are somewhat in a recurring revenue stage, right? This is where a majority of us are, and that's why SLI and True Methods and all these organizations that are trying to get you higher in your maturity adoption. It's a progression, right? We're doing monthly recurring revenue. We've got people potentially growing with our service offering getting them to 100% if possible. The next phase, though, is where we become kind of proactive, right? A lot of people think that they are here whenever it comes down to it. And it's not that they're not. One of the things that I want you guys to kind of decouple today as we go through this is a holistic organization versus maybe some of the BUs or processes within your org, right? Let's say from a hardware, software, end customer network perspective, a lot of us are in that proactive area. We've got our RMM tools, got our network monitoring systems in there. We've got a ton of automation built out to protect our customers, whether it be patching, whether it be proactive alerting, monitoring, proactive script automation, self-assist, all of these different things, they're built out. What I would like to do is, like I said, decouple that from, let's say, a security stack, right? BCDR, I'm sure you guys are all aware, that's that last ditch effort on that security side. If we're looking at the NIST framework, it is a very, very vital part of ensuring that your customers are 100% secure in every facet, right? If something ever does happen, that is the insurance policy that you guys should all have, right? And there's one thing, I've talked to a lot of organizations about BCDR over the last 6 months or so as we've ramped up our partner advisory council for this area. And there are some organizations that are doing it really right. They have a full-blown proactive approach, and it's not just the alerting, it's not just testing and backups. They've got a template that they've implemented on a daily to weekly to monthly to quarterly to annual basis, in which they engage at each of those different layers, the critical elements of what provides a holistic continuity strategy, right? Things from doing, the daily backups and alerting on those, to doing monthly engagements to test backups for their customer, to doing a full-blown restore with the backup vendor on a regular basis as well. And I say regular basis, it is, in a genuine fashion, an ad hoc thing, right? A lot of organizations try to plan these things, and they should be planned to some extent, but they should be reactive on some of the stakeholders' perspectives, because it shouldn't be something that's planned for, right? It never is in the real world, right? Last but not least, where we want to get to is that advisor model. And this is where, ironically, from an MSP's perspective, we've been coaching on, like I said, for about a decade here. And that's the area where you guys are all very knowledgeable about what you do with tech, how you make money from it, how you're able to be more profitable and use it to improve your current state. That's where we need to begin evangelizing and taking our use of technology and progressing it forward for all of those customers around us. That is how we will differentiate. Now, why is this, transition taking place? Well, plain and simple, things are getting better, right? As we see technology become more reliable, easier to consume, higher in demand. I mean, it literally is a requirement for almost every industry today. You guys out there, you guys are doing more. And I will say, the vendors that are in the space realize what you, as those partners, need to help facilitate a lot of this transition, because your customers' demands are shifting and changing, and they're catering to that for you to kind of close up any of those gaps, right? Now, just another way of kind of looking at what we were talking about a moment ago, on the spectrum of going from low OML, let's say, to high OML, from the reactive side of things over to the consultative side. Well, you got to go through each of those areas, right? You've got to make sure you're in a position where a lot of what you're doing from a low ROI time investment, like the things that you see here on the screen, are automated as much as humanly possible, right? You're taking a lot of that low ROI, those mundane tasks off your plate, so that you can then look at the opportunity costs and start beginning to work on those, the advice, the consultative aspect, hey, how do I holistically protect not only myself, but them, right? How do I look at ways to ensure that their costs, their insurance, these types of things are decreased? That's how you, as an MSP, as a vendor to them, provide value. Not to mention, as you can see here, some of those proactive assessments that we talk about. But more importantly, I think we all know this, some people are outsourcing this today to organizations. But one of the biggest things that we can do is educate our customers, like I said earlier. Now, Historically, it has always been on the MSP side for me. Now, as we venture into the security realm of where it is probably the most important facet of any sort of technology stack, it's educating around that. It's doing the testing and the ability to pinpoint those holes that may exist. Now, you may be asking yourself, whenever it comes down to it, how on earth do I go from, let's say, that left-hand side where I am doing things manual over to the right-hand side? Well, I am going to go ahead and transition to this next slide, but the first area that I always tell organizations to focus on, I know you guys thought that I was going to go to our co-managed backup, but that's not just yet, right? What I do want to pinpoint out is that in most cases, I know somebody out there that's sitting in this room and watching this video, or, I know you guys heard Jim earlier. You guys are sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, Topher's talking about the tools, and we have insert solution, let's say an RMM tool, and you're like, man, I feel like I have barely scratched the surface on this tool set, right? I don't care if it's your RMM, if it's your PSA, if it's your quoting solution, if it's your backup solution. In a lot of cases, MSPs, and I had to do this whenever I was on the consulting side, lose focus after they get a little bit of value coming out of that solution that they offered, that they purchased, right? A lot of us buy on ambitious mindsets, right? We'll buy a solution and we'll think it's great. It does all these great things. 6 months into the onboarding or the implementation of that solution, there are so many fires going on within my four walls and in my customers' four walls that I kind of lose focus, right? And that's where we first need to go back and revisit. What can we wring out of the things that we already own to make our teams more productive, to take time off their plate, right? Take an easy RMM tool example. What can I do that's going to either keep issues from occurring, never have to lift a finger, or B, auto remediate that. So something happened, but the tool was set up to fix it, or C, do some sort of remediation, but I don't have to do as much at a human element, right? I can then take several steps off of that, So look at the stack that you currently use, like I said, from internal solutions to anything that is customer facing, and start there, right? That's the number one way that you can get a higher ROI for what you're doing today. Secondly, is going from what I like to call, and I don't want to call it basic MSP, but let's call it a DIY approach on the left-hand side to a done with you approach on the right-hand side. And what you're seeing here is you have your MSP and the customers, right, up there at the top. Then you have this advisory layer, right? And on this left-hand side, and let's look at it from a DIY perspective, you have, a smaller number of advisors inside of your organization than you do, let's say, the technicians, the doers, right? The tasks, the technical element, right? Versus what you see on the right, where you have more of those advisors. And whenever I think advisor, I know everybody out there is like, oh, I don't have consultants, but it's more of investing in those higher ROI times to your customer, right? In some ways, this is a full circle benefit to you, right? It allows you more face time with your end customers. It gives them the warm and fuzzies. CSAT's going to go through the roof. It's going to, increase the retention for them, higher value. You can charge more money. But something else, that I always like to look at, especially from, let's say, an individual contributor's perspective, is that advisory layer is also a lot more fun than doing all of those T1, T2, alerts, tickets, all of that stuff. Getting up to that next layer is very fulfilling to a lot of your staff whenever it comes down to it. And so that is what I would recommend, is getting to that point where you're able to engage with your customer, gain feedback from them, and provide solutions. And we went through some of those methods a little bit earlier. Now, one thing that you're going to notice on this kind of done with you approach is that little blue box, right? And this is where I'll kind of go into what I like to call a hybrid work model, right? I just talked to you about how if they can get out, your technicians, they can get out of that low level, tier one alerts in the morning. They're coming in, they're seeing all the backups that fail. They're going in, they're rerunning it, making sure everything is up and running the way it should be, restoring different things. Those little tasks, they can be either automated, or more importantly, they can be outsourced to a team that does that really well, does it effectively, does it timely, but also, like I said before, frees up that time for other higher ROI time investments for your team, right? I've done tons of webinars with Paul Dipple, and Paul Dipple, founder of Service Leadership. He talks about when to hire a new client. Done tons of breakouts, webinars, and it would be, hey, every morning you have a technician, probably your newest technician coming in and spending 4 hours every morning working on all of the admin things that happen overnight, right? Well, as soon as you get to a point where that individual has outgrown that and there's capacity to be had at a higher level, elevate that individual and then hire somebody else new to come in and do that. Well, we know the hiring process these days is long, it's expensive, salaries are increasing, talent's hard to retain, all these different things. Well, here's where I would come in and I would say, hey, you don't even have to hire someone, ramp them up, go through all of the onboarding until they're able to provide 100% ROI on, on their salary and so forth. Outsource it to a NOC that is trained to do this effectively. But more importantly, they're trained to do it on a proactive basis. Because one of the things that I feel like our NOC does really well, whenever it comes to the co-managed side, is it brings that layer of trust to your organization. It gives you the mindset that, hey, in the back of my head, is everything working smoothly? Because if not, if I ever need to call on that side of everything, it may be something that I don't have at my disposal, right? You never want to get to that point where you need it and it wasn't there. So making sure you have an entire team, we have an entire team taking a proactive approach to multiple vendors and their backup solutions to ensure that your teams, your customers' backups are up and running 100%. Now, just a quick kind of breakdown of this. Like I said, we've got on the left-hand side, the doing less, which is where you want to migrate from. Like I said, you're doing more labor, so your labor costs are high, your revenue from that is low. You want to invest less time. You want to, all these different things that keep you in that low OML. You want to move it over, right? Focus on those high impact tasks, strategic meetings with your customers. Funny thing is I always joke with MSPs and I say, you ever get to charge more because you work more tickets? Never. Always gets kind of a little chuckle, right? So making sure that you guys are focusing on that and transitioning time away from your valuable resources to either a solution or a team that can handle that for you, right? Going to speed it up now because I only think I have like 3 or 4 minutes. So this is what I was talking about earlier, kind of that DIY done with you approach. And you can just see down here, right? If you're spending $60,000 for somebody to do your backups and just stay on top of it, that revenue is, already coming in, right? So if we look at it, you can outsource that, refocus the attention of that individual over to the advisor role. And now they're actually bringing in net new revenue for you, either through professional services or upselling on, existing service agreements, getting them on that full stack, which is yet again another best practice on the OML side. But again, making sure that we are properly utilizing the talent that we have, allowing us to offload anything that doesn't align to that. Really quickly, want to look into this. Again, that DIY done with you. You can see what you may be responsible for today in the DIY model. Everything, right? It's 100% on you. Moving over to the right, that's where our NOC comes in, right? We're monitoring the alerts. We're troubleshooting any failures that may occur. The thing that I want to say that is probably the best thing here is that we are 24/7. We follow the sun, as we like to say it. So if something happens overnight and it's a major issue, don't worry. We have people there to assist you with that. You're not running your tech staff ragged, at 11 o'clock at night or, let's say 7:30 when they're trying to eat dinner and those types of things. Again, very, very valuable. Now, what does this bring to you? Again, server count. You can just see some examples here. Not going to go through those specifically, but with our team being able to offset about 80 or 90% of that time and cost for you, you can see on if you're spending, and this is a study that we did, for 15 servers takes about 37 hours per month. We take, 34 hours off your plate, give you back those 34 hours to invest. Plus we're a lot cheaper, right? Last but not least, so what can ConnectWise do to you? I do for you. Like I said before, our co-managed backup, really great offering. The best part that I like about it is you can turn it on site by site, right? So if you have some customers that you're like, man, I need to get rid of these customers. they're, mean to my staff. They bring morale down. We're not making any margins. Well, that's where I like to tell partners that you have the ability at that site level to enable and disable any of our expert services, right? So you can increase those margins, raise the happiness of your team, like I said before, stick to your SLAs, and then bring in another A customer as well. Not to mention we have our partner program, like you see there on that education side. I want to give you guys some really good information on that. I'm going to zoom through that here in a moment. But if you're, looking to really drive some maturity inside of your organization, make sure you're looking at Evolve, make sure you're looking at service leadership. We have the knowledge, the skill set, the experience to help you guys with that. Now, I'm going to fast forward here. This is our partner program. If you're not familiar with it, if you have backup, if you have co-managed with us, that goes towards your partner program area. We offer marketing development funds. We offer partnerships to help a sell with model. So we're hopping on webinars for our partners today to bring on new customers for our MSPs that purchase from us. And it's just a really great model to not only bring on some expertise from our side, but really start to ramp up those sales for your side, either from a backup and business continuity side or from a security side, right? Last but not least, if you're looking for a quick resource about what we have to offer, there is a QR code here, the ConnectWise MSP Guide to BCDR. Would love to have you guys download that, and some really cool stuff, 9 complete chapters into how you guys can progress your BCDR stack a little bit forward. So with that being said, Topher Barrow here. Really appreciate you guys joining me, and you guys have a wonderful event. Thank you.
So